Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fast Performance Podcast. My name is JC, and we have an awesome guest today, Stephen Fitzgerald from Rodeo Adventure Labs Cycles, our new next door neighbors here in Lakewood. Crank out some of the finest gravel bikes on the planet. Before we get into that, I'd like to shout out some of our fast performance partners, Thorn Research, from supplements to tests and health solutions. We recommend Thorn products for all of our athletes as they are NSF certified for sport, third-party tested, and the highest quality on the market. Be safe when you choose your supplements. Choose Thorn. Kaiser Fitness Equipment. Kaiser is the industry leader in strength training equipment. We use the pneumatic resistance with or without plate rate resistance and allows us to track power production across force velocity curves. It's been a game changer for our athletes. Kaiser mantra of train fast, be fast is true to our programming at Fast Performance. And at Fast Labs, our metabolic cycling lab, we use watt bike technology for all of our cycling training. Our watt bike nucleus and atom models allow our clients to get real-time power and pedal stroke analysis feedback while using their preferred third-party training apps like Swift or TrainerRoad for all of their indoor training needs. Watt bikes are used by the USOC, British Cycling Federation, Australian Institute of Sport, and New Zealand Rugby, to name a few of the national governing bodies that use their technology to enhance their athletes' performance. And lastly, Anchor Training, their portable cable training unit, is a game changer for creating functional training and effective training environments, no matter what your space or location. See our website listed in the notes to learn more about how we use these products and discount codes. So with that, we're going to get underway. Stephen, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
It's cool to have neighbors like you and to discover that we're neighbors.
I know. And it was awesome. Like the first day that I literally just cold call walked in, and I was like, "Oh my God, your space is so cool!"
Thank you.
Like it was like it was like walking into an art gallery for cycling. It was like I looked around and I thought, "Okay, these guys have got something special going on here."
I'm glad that comes through. We definitely wanted to kind of up our game when we moved into that space and make a bit of a statement about, yeah, we're a bike company, but we appreciate something a little extra.
Yeah. So let's kind of start from the beginning a little bit, and talk about the evolution of Rodeo Labs and like how you kind of got into this. From what I gleaned from the background on the website, going back to 2014, Rodeo Labs kind of started as a concept. It was like the anti-team to the road-centric race teams that were dictating how you should ride or telling you how you should ride. Or, I mean, did you have like a firsthand experience with this? Were you on one of those teams? How did this come about?
Yeah, I was on a local team in Denver, and your road cycling culture has its traditions, and that isn't a good or a bad thing. Sure, it just is what it is. I'm fine with that. But sometimes they can be a little bit stifling in terms of like what's the right way to do it. And so you join a team. I worked my way up through the team, and it was formal and fun. You do need structure to run a good road cycling program. You need to cooperate, and you need to, there's a whole path there. But I think I had a moment of epiphany when I realized, like, I am an amateur athlete. Like, we are not going professional. I'm not. So there's a point where some of this is just too much, and I feel constrained by all of this being put on me. And to the point, more fundamentally, other friends of mine who were passionate and even better riders than I were, that didn't really want to conform to that, couldn't be on the team. So I mean, couldn't even be on the same team as my friends because they wouldn't commit to a certain number of races or go through the interview process or show up to work all the events. There's just things that you needed to do. And I just thought, I need to have a team where nobody tells us what to do. And that was kind of the origin of rodeo. Was just to start a team that didn't tell anyone what to do, didn't even know what it was, other than like, anyone can come, my friends or anyone really.
Sure.
And we can all wear the same thing when we want to be on the same team and go rock a race together. Or not. So that's how it started.
Yeah. So that's very cool.
Yeah, it was fun. And there is a counterculture now, definitely a developed counterculture in cycling. At the time, I would say it was more novel to come at it from that angle.
Yeah.
And now I'd say a lot of people sort of liberating from that construct, and it's probably mainstream to not want to have any rules at all.
Yeah.
So it's a less regimented sport now.
Yeah. There's definitely you can feel it. I mean, like, even what Legion's done with criteriums out in California, and some of the counterculture effects of those types of ideas. There's definitely a lot of pushback on what the traditional cycling race culture used to be.
Yeah.
So I can certainly see how that evolution came about just by watching it from afar.
Yeah.
I was never part of that culture, so I can't look at it from the inside. So that's why I was intrigued to ask you about that.
A lot of that came about, sort of the Lance Armstrong, post-Lance Armstrong. When he was winning everything, that brought a lot of people into the sport.
Yes.
And they followed that path.
Right.
And that became the default way to engage with sort of, I guess, road cycling at least. And then when he sort of wasn't the role model, I think you can interrogate it and go, well, wait, what are the ideals here? What are we actually doing? And do we want to redefine it? So it's a bit of a renaissance.
Yeah.
For a lot of other people, not just us, to remake the sport a little bit.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit about the sort of gravel movement. And I call it the gravel movement, coming from a traditional road background myself. I came from an alpine ski racing background. I used road as a training method for me, not even mountain biking. I was always a road biker. And just watching the evolution and the popularity of gravel absolutely exploding, like the growth is just massive. I marvel at it. I look at it. Was it talking about like the evolution of your company, was it the lack of a pure gravel bike design that kind of led you to start exploring your own designs? Like, give us the cliff notes of the evolution of like what led you to the first idea for the trail donkey.
Yeah. So it wasn't that there was nothing available. Gravel certainly had not become a zeitgeist yet.
Right.
It hadn't become the thing. It was emerging, and just barely. And maybe if you were really nose in the wind, you were kind of maybe in that scene. But for me, I wasn't really aware or paying attention to what was going on in gravel. I was more just a front range rider who had ridden everything and wanted interesting routes for me, it was like, I'm a road biking. I'm going to go ride Lookout. It's the same thing all the time, up and down, train on this. And you just start to want to reinterpret your local, options.
Sure.
So a more versatile bike is a way to go about that. So the next step is to take a cyclocross bike, which is sort of road bike with, knobby tires. They're pretty small, bad brakes, limited gearing. But that was the next step was, okay, take the cyclocross bike, add some dirt, add some local trails, some green mountains, some mild mountain biking. Okay, well, that was fun.
Yeah.
That's fresh to me. And then you start thinking about, well, what would really optimize this more.
Right.
So I wasn't trying to make a gravel bike, but gravel was over here kind of doing its thing, and I'm over here doing my thing. And then, they eventually merged. You find out, as is common, a bunch of people are working the same problem.
Right.
Right. But then you find yourself in the middle of that conversation. So I think, I started to see the other options, and I think I realized with rodeo, once we had made a team and then sort of felt empowered by we can do whatever we want, I didn't want to buy anybody else's bike anymore. I didn't want to consume what cycling had to offer directly. You just start to learn, well, I have my own ideas and I have the agency to make them real. So the next step was to do that with the bike. So I went out, found a frame, had it modified a little bit, painted it like our team, and started showing people, because we're a very media-driven company. Show the photos, videos, stories about everything we've ever done. So we're just showing people on social media, we're goofing around on this bike. Wait, it's not called gravel bike, it's called a trail dunk, which is a joke. But it's very fun to be in control of that project and not have to please anybody, not to have anybody say no. And then as you do and you try it and you're enjoying it, that became maybe, its own infectious story.
Was it, and the impetus for wanting to do your own thing, versus like even, following the path and saying, oh yeah, there's a great looking gravel bike. Maybe that's the one that's going to work for me. I mean, what was that sort of like, to use your term, that epiphany, that moment where you're like, I got to do my own versus riding somebody else's?
Well, I would ask that question right back at you, because why are you not going to somebody else's, training facility?
Okay.
Like why?
Fair enough.
Why? Because there are other great training facilities out there, and it's certainly less complicated. Just show up, pay your dues, work with a coach.
Right.
It's a lot easier to walk to a bike shop and walk out with a bike. But I just think, and I'm learning about myself. And again, I think rodeo was the beginning. The team was the beginning of learning that wait, I have agency. I can do this for myself. And the satisfaction of creating something versus consuming it is probably the most fundamental thing that happens at rodeo. Is we're in control of our own destiny.
Right.
Look what we've done. This is extremely satisfying. What are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do? You can get a job and sort of toil away at that role. And that's actually less risk, more comfortable, more predictable. There's a lot of great things about that.
Sure.
But there's something very exciting about striking out into the unknown. And it's just like, we'll see.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. I mean,
Yeah. A never dull moment.
And being in control of the product to a certain extent, I think that's a big deal for us. Like, okay, to your point, you're going to ask that right back to me. It's like, okay, am I going to go to somebody else's metabolic lab who's not going to offer the same type of test battery that I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Or offer the same level of data analysis that I'm looking for?
Right.
Or offer the same type of culture and athletics that I'm looking for?
Yeah.
It's the same type of thing. So I'm 100% with you on that, Kat. That makes sense.
I think it's almost like Pandora's box. When you open it, I don't think you can shut it. I don't think they can go back to being at the previous mindset, which again, I'm not ragging on.
No.
But it's not my path.
Right. It's cliche to say it, but it's nonconformist, right?
Yeah. And we were definitely not that. And I'm fundamentally, I'm not that as part of my identity. Like, I kind of want to just like stick it to the cool kids, like show them up kind of thing. So that definitely played into all of it.
Right.
Yeah. And being in control of the final product, like if you're creating a product that is pioneering, then you have to be in control of it, because everyone will say you shouldn't do that. Nobody's doing it that way. That isn't how it's done. And you have to be in control enough to push back and say, it's my product. I have a vision for it. And I don't know if the market cares or will respond to it. That wasn't even the original idea. These were not for sale.
Right.
It's just for me and a few friends. And then the market responded and said, well, we want that too.
Yeah.
That's where the company happened.
Right. Yeah. Which is sort of a fantastic side effect of, of your creation, which is something to be celebrated. Right?
Yes. That was the cool part of it.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the design of the bikes and the materials, because I know like everybody, well, I shouldn't say everybody, many in the cycling world are focused on weight. And, we joked out on the floor, we were talking about the Porsche crowd.
Yeah.
Talk about the guys that are like, they're riding bikes that talk as much, they cost as much as my first car in college did. And you could pick them up with one finger.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of building the Frankenbike build. I'm a eBay, I'm very proud of my eBay builds. I build buy the frame used and build it from scratch and so on and so forth. But they're so hyper focused on weight. And I look at the evolution of the materials that you've used over the years and some of the frames that you're building right now. And you're utilizing titanium, steel, some are carbon. Give us a quick rundown on your theories behind like the choices of the materials you've made and like decisions you've made on weight versus integrity of those materials.
Yeah. Well, we started with carbon, which I think in a way is a bit backwards because it's the most technically difficult to do and definitely the most expensive. You're going in for tooling and molds before you see it framed. So you're let's say tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in before you get a frame. Whereas with steel, you just start welding. With titanium, you could have a prototype in weeks, maybe. But carbon, I wanted carbon. And for in the beginning, this is for me. And I was a road racer. I mean, I was mountain prior to road, but at the time primarily road. And I care about weight.
Yeah.
But I wanted a bike that was nimble and, athletic and racy. So I built it for me. Carbon, again, the most difficult path, but I just went for that on intuition. Weight matters. It's not nothing. I think it's overemphasized as a sort of a marketability metric. It's really easy for people to understand. You put a bike in front of someone, absolutely the first thing they're going to do is pick it up. They don't even know what it's telling them when they're picking it up, other than like, oh yeah. And like, people will walk in and pick up their bike and they'll pick it up and they'll go, oh yeah. And they don't know what it weighs. It's just like, we're not actually quantifying much with that metric, but picking up, right. Or even just suggesting that lightweight is the most important thing, but we've certainly been sold that. So by default, every bicycle consumer, or most, every, are thinking about that front of mind.
Sure.
And you can't ignore that people have been trained that way. We all model ourselves after the pros, or at least we did in road cycling, especially during that era. So you just go out and you get yourself the closest thing you can to a Tour de France bike. That was the thing to do. It better be light. But I would say, in the same way that we don't all drive F1 cars, it's overemphasized. And we would be poorly served by an F1 car.
Yes.
We've sort of emancipated ourselves from the weight as a primary driver of our bikes, and we've gone for function and durability. They're multi-use devices, multi-terrain devices. And as a small company, you just can't be making fragile bikes. No, people crashing, things failing, your reputation. I mean, there's so many levels on which weight can be in there, but it cannot be the most important.
Can't be a driver of it. Yes.
So it's in there. But, in our adventure space, you could be building, let's just say, trying to build maybe a 16.5, 17 pound gravel bike for racing. But that same bike that we make is also used for bike packing, and you can end up with a 70-pound bike packing rig fully loaded with food and water.
Right.
So what does 400 grams on the frame really matter?
Exactly.
That's like a water bottle. You know what I mean? So again, overemphasize. Think about it in context if you really want to think about weight. And are you really that great of a rider to wear, these couple hundred grams?
Thank you.
Even waiting for that response. Are you that light? I'm not that light. I'd always like to be 5 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
So it's a thing.
Yeah.
But I wish people would think a little bit more deeply about it. And we actually push certain customers away when they show up, and the first question they ask is, how light is it? How light can you make it?
Right.
We have a pretty quick initial discussion about, look, if you're going to make weight the number one priority, then we should point you to these other brands that also do that. But we're not going to start there. It'll be what it is.
Yeah.
So
it's what in the performance training world, we call it the 1%ers margin. So we have a lot of technology companies that take runs at us all the time, say, oh, you need to put this piece of technology in your gym, so on and so forth. Okay, well, what is it for?
Yeah.
Like, what is the application? Oh, well, so-and-so from the NFL used it, and this is what they used it for. And if you actually look at what it's doing, it's refining the performance metric by 1%. Okay. Now, if a individual high school athlete, right, is not even close to refining that 1% metric, right, they're still somewhere down in the mid 50s, right. What is that possible 1% going to do for them? Absolutely nothing, because they can't do the simple things savagely well to get to that point yet.
Yeah.
So
that makes so much sense. Yeah. I mean, even Unbound just happened this last weekend, biggest race of the year. And 1% of the total race time for a pro, I mean, that's not nothing. Let's say 1% of 10 hours. If you could shave 1% off measurably, big deal. But what about, the person who's spending the money to get to 1%, but is not heat adapted, and they just can't even create watts on their 14-pound gravel bike? So there's so many other things to think about.
Right.
But weight is the easiest to buy. And certainly as a sport where people are sort of buying performance, and the industry sells performance.
Sure.
It's like the next upgrade. How are we going to keep people spending? Let's just sell performance.
Yeah.
That's low-hanging fruit. That'll never not be just a highlighted.
That was, this was when I was going through the list of questions I wanted to ask you. I'm like, I just know that this is something that people are going to want to hear. So
ask it. Hey, smoke them if you got them. as light as I can reasonably.
Yeah.
And there's usually a threshold, of course, and where I'm like, yeah, no, so yeah.
Give us a current rundown on the various bikes that you currently have, like in your lineup,
Yeah.
and then like what do you guys have in development? What's on the radar? Like maybe tell us a little bit about the Denver project that you have that's in the pipeline, and how far along is it?
Well, we started with gravel bikes, which is the bike that you would ride, traditionally. I mean, I guess dirt roads, but for us, it was road, dirt road, and light trail, even trail riding, mountain biking at times, not to replace a mountain bike, but so that's our core sort of feature set for the core of the company currently. So, and we have steel, titanium, and carbon frames that do that. The metal frames are called flammable. There's a joke behind the name, which is most rodeo things, and then the carbon bike is called Trail Donkey, which we just shortened to T4 because again, there's a joke behind the name. It just takes too long to explain. So they all kind of have a slightly different use cases. The steel is real. I want a metal bike people. There's the titanium people, much higher cost, and this is a forever bike for me type people. And then carbon is more like make it as light as possible, and I'm a racer. People kind of self-identify with the material. The bikes are similar in function, and so they overlap almost entirely on a Venn diagram. And then they're wildly adaptable. So we're a custom builder, and we'll build them. We'll do a lot of time. We'll spend time listening to who are you, where are you, how old are you, what's your background, where are you going to ride it, and then we will work with people to collaborate on how the bike is built out to try and match that. So hopefully when it lands, it's just exactly dialed. You're not having to swap things out. There isn't a mismatch. It fits correctly.
Yeah.
So that's been, we're 11 years in. That's been the 11 years of us so far. The sport is pushing more into, I would say the adventure side of cycling is pushing more and more into more off-road, more and more rugged, and in the ultra endurance space, which would be, I'd say, races above 200 miles, 300 miles, all the way up to, thousands of miles. More and more of those courses are becoming more and more mountain bikey. We're having more and more people ask for a mountain bike. So we've prototyped and we've worked on mountain bikes for years and finally got to the point where we said, if we're really going to make a contribution to the discipline of mountain biking in that space in the industry, it's all really been done by really everyone for, let's just say, 3 or 4 decades, sure point. So in terms of the science and function, isn't anything to do, but that's not really the space to move into and try and innovate. So we're trying to innovate in terms of construction and manufacturing with our mountain bike project. So we have this Project Denver, which is all about, our other frames are made in Taiwan, and then one's made in China.
Right.
And Project Denver is about kind of reshoring frame production and finding a way to create a very cost competitive, feature weight competitive frame in the United States, which isn't just, again, about developing a mountain bike, but it's about developing a manufacturing process that we can apply to the mountain bike or really anything else. So
that's primarily stateside.
Yeah, it would be in our building.
Oh, really?
Raw materials into the door, frame set leaves. And that's the end game.
Okay.
For that. And
that's incredible.
It's a tough end game. It really involves, again, sort of setting status quo aside and putting your nose in the wind and trying to invent a method. And if that method already had been invented or existed, clearly it would be being used. Of course, but the most optimized way to make a bike is really, in terms of cost, is definitely to do it overseas.
Sure.
You can do certain types of production here, metal. There is USA made carbon.
Yeah.
But let's just say it's 5x or even more in terms of the cost of Asia. So we want to have it all.
Yeah.
And I don't 100% know that that's possible, but I would say I'm 70 to 80% sure we can do it. Wow. It's a money game.
Yeah.
So, R&D just burns money.
Of course.
You don't pitch an investor on R&D because all they see is a flaming dumpster fire of cash. So we self-fund our R&D, and we're limited. At the pace of our development is limited to resources that we can put into it. But we have prototypes. I just took our prototype mountain bike frame to a ultra endurance race a few weeks ago.
How did it do?
Great, I won. I mean, that sounds like a brag.
No, that's good.
But that's simply the facts.
There you go.
Did
That's
not
awesome.
expect to. I went in thinking maybe this frame will break and maybe I'll break.
Yeah.
And we just got there first.
That sounds quick.
It was rad.
Where was the race?
It was in Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Pinions and Pines.
Yeah.
350-mile mountain bike race, basically. And you just go.
Yeah.
You just say go,
Just pin it.
and then you're done. Whoever finishes first. So it's all self-supported. You have to find your water, food, etc. You can buy it at stores, but
Sure.
it's a very stripped back race experience. You don't see anybody for half a day or a day. You're riding at a certain gap.
Yeah.
You can see your position on a map via satellite trackers.
Yeah.
So you can, there are tactics.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we've put a strong foot forward on intent, and we're showing people, which is not super common, that we're hard at work on it.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, when can I get it? And we just say when it's done, we've solved it. So we're not trying to be a tease,
Right.
but what we did with our initial bikes was we showed that we were working on them. And then when they were ready, the market was also ready and excited for them to finally be done.
Yeah.
And I hope the same thing is true with the mountain bike and even Project Denver in general.
Yeah.
So
That sounds like you're on your way with that.
yeah, let's say. I mean, it's we have a good team. I don't want to say I didn't make that bike. I didn't put it together. I didn't design it. In terms of that effort, I'm clearly I'm an owner of the company and sure running it, but I'm mostly motivating the team towards the goal. It's smart, cool, talented people.
Yeah.
Kind of a crack team working on it, and we just got to keep going.
That's the best part of it, though. Is best part to running a company is making sure you got the right people.
Yeah.
It's like I'm a big fan of saying that. You better hire people smarter than you to make sure that it works well.
Well, then the whole learning for
Yeah.
I mean, you can start a company on a wild hair and maybe get a certain distance on passion and all of that, and then the practicalities, who and how to hire, who and how to run, and all of that stuff is a bit of an art that has been actually much more difficult to learn than even the product.
Yeah.
So
Very cool. Let's talk training a little bit. I'm a road dork. Obviously, I'm captivated by all forms of cycling, competition, Grand Tours, velodrome, triathlon. Spent 25 years of my life training Nordic and biathlon skiers. And Unbound gravel has really caught my attention the last few years. And you've done it 8 times. Now you told me 3 times on a single speed, including one of those times on a beach cruiser, which is just insanely impressive. Explain to everybody a bit about how you're able to balance family, work, your business that you started, and training for an event like Unbound. I know you went over this a little bit downstairs, but this is a lifestyle thing for you, right? It's not necessarily you're not separating a part of your day and saying, oh, okay, I need to take 2 hours out of my day to do a zone 2 ride right now.
Right. Well, in a previous iteration of my cycling competitive self, I was more disciplined about method in training, and you learn a lot through trial and error. And I read, power meter, heart rate monitor,
Sure.
and then I watched as I trained differently over time, give different results, and I really feel like I kind of cracked it around 2012, 13, 14.
Mm-hmm.
I finally started understanding the importance of training a really good base. For me, this is what worked. Great base, then add intensity to a big base, and then you have more matches and better matches, and then you can win. And I not a pro, but I could win races in Colorado, at the state level, pretty handily. And as I moved more into rodeo, I used to ride, I guess technically more miles before the bike company started. And I think, I don't know, anytime you own something, it sort of owns you. So it sort of demands, all the time you'll give it. And anytime you don't give it, you feel like you're shortchanging it. So the business wants all of your time. The family wants and deserves your time. I have 3 kids. And then, yeah, I'm a cyclist, and I'm a competitor still on some level. I'm not trying to go pro,
Sure.
but it's just a part of me to go out and compete. And my goals might be different than they were earlier. But I think the way that I reconcile it and make peace is that it isn't optional to ride, and it isn't optional to train. And I think other people do decide that it's optional because, look, the economic driver is so overwhelming. You got to lean into the economic driver. You got to run the business full time, and it's selfish and self-indulgent to spend time on a bike. Just hire pros to do that. They'll feed the sales and grow the business. But the business isn't the end game, like the economic part of it. It needs to be viable. It needs to be sustainable. It needs to be working. But the culture and the riding are, to me, just as important.
Yeah.
So it isn't optional to throttle back and sort of desk jockey it,
Right.
Or just sort of be an executive level decision maker and then watch everybody else go ride.
Yeah.
So maybe that's selfish. And maybe, I don't know, some CEO whisperer would say, like, if you really want this thing to be, then you gotta grow up. I think about that all the time. I thought about it this morning, deciding how long of a ride to do on the way into work. And it just said, I'm going the longer way because I still deserve, and I got into this on the backs of the passion of actually riding the bike. And I think if I don't do that, we make good bikes, but I think part of the live nerve of rodeo that people connect with would fade, and we would be more of a commodity company than we are like we're a plus company. We're like commodity plus. We make bikes, people make bikes. And then what's the plus of rodeo? Well, it's the culture and sharing the passion for what it is, the going out and doing it, the stories, and the relatability of our industry is an industry that traffics in passion. Yes. There are hard goods and soft goods and all these other things associated with it. But what people really love in cycling is the passion of the sport. They love it. So when we're selling a bike or we're talking about something, the thing you really connect with people on is passion. And I don't know how to have that and relate that to people without actually riding. So it's just existential. You have to ride, nailed it, or we're fake. Yeah, I would say. And that is I'm not trying to throw shade on anyone who does it differently.
No.
It's not even a secret sauce. It's just like the essential ingredient.
Going over your, just looking through your website, right? That is the overarching mantra. It's the flow. It's like there's the spirit that runs through every single page, every single part of it. Like just the way you spoke to that particular piece about, of course I'm going to take the long way into work this morning.
That
just like
sometimes work wins.
Sometimes work wins. I put it short way. I get that, but but the way you said that, I was like, okay, that totally clicks with me. That makes sense, because that speaks to rodeo. That speaks to the company, right? That speaks to who you are as the founder of that company. And it makes total sense to me. Like if you suddenly, somebody came in and just said, you're done. You need to grow up and park yourself behind a desk. It wouldn't do you or the company any favors then. That's just my
I don't think it would. I don't know. If our story was that of let's just say a technical R&D lab or an engineering company,
right,
then maybe you don't need the passion story.
Correct.
You're just showing high precision, product.
Ball bearings.
Exactly. Yeah. Or even, there's frame makers. Right. Their whole story is precision assembly, insane tolerance, beautiful. It's art. But there's never a picture of them riding the bike.
Yeah.
So they're not better or worse than us, but they're different. So I think understanding what it is that you are and just having the permission to just continue to be that.
Yeah.
It's working.
Yeah.
So it's not a zero casualty thing. Like I'll get to work late.
Sure.
And sometimes I'll get home late, hopefully with permission.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely robbing 30 minutes here and 30 minutes here to create an hour. And then I use my commute, just never drive. Once, twice a month.
Right.
It's always ride to work, ride home. That's a free hour, basically in each direction maybe. And then you can put together maybe a 10 or 15, or if I get lucky, a 20-hour week.
Yeah.
In sort of peak season.
Yeah.
You can find time to do.
Put it together. That's impressive. That's really impressive. So then that being said, like for people that, are listening to this at home, I know there was a time when you were actually following metrics, when you were racing a little more seriously, so on and so forth. Does it matter to you now? Like, you have the head unit on your bike. Do you care about, heart rate zones? Do you care about FTP? Do you care about watts per kilo? Do you care about any of that stuff when you're riding at all?
I do. Less disciplined than I was, but maybe some of that is because I distilled it enough to be generally accurate.
Okay.
So I still care about watts. I want to know what I can hold for 30 minutes or an hour.
Okay.
I'll go out and do that a couple of times a year.
Sure.
Not necessarily an FTP workout, but I'll ride high grade. And then I know that high grade takes an hour from the valley to the top.
Yeah.
And that's about as hard as I'll go. Like, I really want, an hour or sub hour. And to do an hour is about 300 watts for an hour. And therefore, I sort of know, when I have never gotten on a bike in a lab and had it measured. And I think that would be really hard for me because I'm outside riding.
Of course.
I'm in this experience. Yeah. But if I had to hold it all together with self-discipline in a lab,
right.
I mean, someday maybe you'll find out. So I use that. I use heart rate. I use Strava as my basic training tool. Sure, logging miles and hours. And when you're premium, not Strava plugs, what I use.
Yeah.
You get fitness impressionists,
of course,
and they probably reverse engineered that from something like, I don't know, Training Peaks or some science and research. I'm sure they have their own brew at this point.
Yeah,
but I can look back. I've been on Strava since 2011. I can look back at, what is that, 15 years of data.
Correct.
And clearly I'm older now, but I know, like, when I was an extremely capable road racer,
right,
this is what fitness, freshness, heart rate, FTP look like. Yeah. Relative to that, where am I now? Yeah. Not the same. But, and then, what are my goals? How much time do I have before I need to hit them? Mm-hmm. So if I'm at, let's just say my number's 55 or 60 on my fitness score, but I know that my fighting weight, so to speak, my fighting number is 100, then I've got X amount of work to do. And if I'm deciding, am I going 10 miles to work, or am I going to go over and look out and it's 42 or 43, I'm extra motivated to go that way, or put together 220s or whatever it is. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, you upload that ride and you see, +0 or +4, right, and you're just slowly creeping towards 100. And you got to balance that against a T, which you also have that score. Right. So you can, I guess, you can use those tools, I would say semi-scientific way. Sure. It's not total discipline, but there's definitely method.
There are tons of different methods. Doesn't have to be, okay, so I'm the data geek, so I always try to do the math, numbers and arithmetic together and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, I'm a big fan, and I was telling you, we train a lot of tactical athletes. They're complete slaves to lifestyle.
Okay. Yeah.
And how many times, they heard, coach, not feeling really well today, my HRV's off, I don't think I could train. It's okay. Stop being a slave to data, right? I literally now will not even look at any of this garbage until I am up and moving around the house. I've taken the dogs for one. I've had breakfast, and then I'll see what Garmin thinks I got for rest last night and what my heart rate variability might have been like, so on and so forth. But you got to base it on feel sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just let the numbers dictate how you should feel versus how you...
Yeah.
We're just getting deluged with data. So
right
at that,
the quantified self.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so overwhelming.
Yeah, and it is overwhelming. So it's kind of refreshing to hear that, not only are you, narrowing all that down to something that is hey, you have the knowledge and experience of having, 10, 12, 14 years of riding, at a very high level. But you also have all of that data in the bank, right? So you're able to go back that far and take a look at it and say, oh yeah, when I was competing at a high level, this is where I was. This is where I am today. This is what I would like to get to, so on and so forth, whether that is some type of metric in between or where it fits and how I can piece that together. That's really refreshing. It's very cool.
Yeah, if I were at the front end of my potential as an athlete, I would probably have a coach, and I would definitely lean into the science.
Sure.
And I would get another X% out of whatever my theoretical potential is, which is that much more discipline.
Right.
And I think I have made peace with maybe I unlock 90% of my potential.
Yeah.
And that's in the context of a life that is not only bikes,
Right.
I can make peace with that. But if I were a young neo pro or going pro or trying to achieve just what I'm capable of, period,
Sure.
and I will maybe single, had a job that XYZ, and it was my season of life to go all in on it, then I would say go all in. Use all the tools. There's never been more tools, more data. We've never understood more about like what you could do. I mean, you're telling me about heat adaptation, and I'm thinking, if I'd have known this, if I'd have known that.
I mean, the nutritional strategies that they're using in the Grand Tours now, like even, 8 years ago, weren't even remotely the carbohydrate loads there.
And leave us out carbohydrates. Last January, I was calories, just calories and electrolyte, and all calories were the same. I mean, like peanut butter and dates and a goo. And now everyone's trying to put 150 grams of carbs in their body every hour at a high level. And it's really simple science now. And I went and ran that experiment on myself. And I'm a Greek guy. I've never felt this good after 8 hours. So I did an 8-hour race, and it was all liquid carbs. And I, again, go all in. Learn it all. It's fun. But that's a season. There are not very many people who will stay in that lane for very long.
No, not very long at all.
So,
something interesting that I wanted to end our discussion on today that I came across in one of your blog posts was talking about trends. And I really loved what you said about trends in a previous interview that you gave. You said, we get trends directly from the source. We go out for rides and we let the experience teach us. Remember when you said that? Very, very much the same way. These guys make fun of me all the time because I'm my own worst lab rat in here. Like I do the same with all of the tech that we have in here. Like I am literally the lead pin cushion. I will poke prod. I will run through all of the new tech that we get in here. If somebody brings me a piece of tech, I'll be the first one to test it to figure out whether it actually works or not. I'll put myself through the pain, and suffering to figure out whether this is actually something that is useful or not, or whether we can see something that is going to come out the other side of it. So I look at that experience and I look at when you said that resonated with me. And I thought to myself, for somebody who's that involved with it, going back to what you said earlier about your philosophy of being on the bike as part of this company, as a leader of this company, that is not following a trend, that's bucking the trend. In my mind. Would you agree with that?
And you might unknowingly create the trend.
Right.
And I would hope that we're all chasing function and improvement. And the way that we go about it is differently. I think there's a whole strata of our industry that is just lateral. It's just look at everybody else and see what the consensus is on what works. What are the trends? What trends have emerged? So you're always behind if you're doing. And then follow them. And that's super safe. And I think a lot of people are operating in terms of having, let's just say, a 9-to-5 where they have to sort of have measurable performance results. You're in a conservative mode about, I want to, let's say you're a bike designer. I want to design a bike, but I can't do anything too radical because it might not be proven. People might not be willing to accept this thinking. So you just look at the generally accepted thinking and kind of do something like that, tweak it a little to make it yours. The more fraught way, but more interesting way is to be experimental. And not everything will be a hit or correct, but it can be very informed by the experience and the going out and doing. And that is a super great tutor or whatever instructor on what works. And get on the bike, ride it up into the mountains. And what about that experience was not optimal? And then do it for a decade or whatever it is. And look, our products have evolved over time. And some of the things that we've done have been 3 to 5 years ahead of everybody else. And some things we do are maybe a little stubborn and nonconformist. So I don't want to say we get everything right, but the things that we've been ahead on have been inspired by just go out and do it. And then it does stand out when you do something early and differently, and people will say, why? Or that's not it, or that isn't the trend. And we get that in the comments and on the inbox all the time. Why aren't you doing this? Everybody's doing this. So either it's defensible or it's not. And it's defensible if you did it for a reason.
Of course.
And if that reason came from the riding, geez, I mean, your odds are pretty good. Like, here's why. And I could talk to you for an hour about this decision.
Right.
And you don't convert everybody. Of course, you have to. But you can explain it to people. And I would say a lot of the less inspired sort of commodity type cycling brands can't defend a lot of their decisions. And you see the new bike drops. There's always new bike drops.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I look and you go, why did they do that?
Yeah.
Like there's no way that in any measure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's different. And maybe it has a sheen to it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they did it for marketing. That's the why. They did it for differentiation. They did it because you can't make a bike that looks like everything else. Sure, that will sell.
Sure.
So, I mean, I guess everyone has a why.
Yeah.
I hope ours are good.
Yeah.
And, they're good enough. They've been good often enough.
I would say they are great based on where you're headed. And I can only say that I've been impressed with what I've seen so far, Stephen. I only think you guys have, the sky's the limit.
Well, thank you.
So, yeah, and it's been great having this conversation. I look forward to getting to know the product and getting to know you guys a lot better.
Yeah, we're going to definitely have some neighborly, I have a good feeling a lot of us are going to end up over here. So, two-way street.
You got it. That sounds great. And Stephen, thank you very much for being on today. Appreciate it. And we'll be in touch.
All right.
And thanks everybody for joining us. And like I said, check our website and listing in the notes to learn more about how we use the products and the discount codes. And definitely check out our link to Rodeo Adventure Labs Cycling, which will be at the end of this podcast. So thank you very much.